like to be in front of the camera?
Weird.
This is the camera person.
Yeah. Hi.
So could you help understand what you do when you're experiencing depression, like when it just takes over like a blanket, like there's just no out, and what's really worked for you? Because I was really impressed.
What worked for me, at least, was just doing things that, like, even if I really don't want to, because depression is like that, you really don't want to do anything, and then you just kind of gotta do it, even though your body is telling you, please don't, you're gonna die, and you're like, shh, not right now, I need to go for a walk. What helps me is doing little crafts. I craft a lot, I paint a lot, I draw a lot, because it just puts your mind out of it, especially when you're experiencing too much anxiety and you're like, I need to do this, I need to do that, and it's so easy to fall into the trap of just getting your phone, and it's like, I need to do so much, and my brain is shouting at me, no, get up, do something, but your body, you know that it needs a break.
Yes.
And that's why you feel so exhausted, but your brain won't take a break because it's like, you should be doing something. So it's so easy to just drown out your thoughts by just getting your little phone and going to social media, to the short form videos, and just scrolling into the abyss and never going back.
Yeah.
So what I find is when I feel like I really need my phone to just drown out my thoughts and just be like, no, I need a break right now, give me a break, you know, from your brain, I go like, no. What I've been doing very recently, I've just been, no, wait, and then I put my phone to the side and I'm like, okay, what do I need right now? Not what do I need to do, what do I need? What is my body telling me right now? What do I want to do, you know? Because you just need a break sometimes. You need to relax. You need to just give yourself some time. And I think for most people it's hard because the world is so fast.
Yes.
And you feel like you need to be doing something all the time, that you have limited time always.
Yes.
So,
and FOMO.
Yeah, and FOMO. So crafting helps me because it feels like something productive, yet you can still turn your brain off if you're like, for example, bracelet making. I made this one.
Sweet.
And you don't really need to think about it. It's not a mentally exhausting task. It's a very like manual task.
Yeah.
You just turn your brain off and you do the little bracelets, and it takes a long time, but at least you're taking a break. And at the end of it, you have something. You have something to show, hey, I wasn't doing nothing, brain. Here's what I did.
So, so you basically use the skill to stop the proclivities of what your brain was doing.
Yeah.
You stopped it. You halted it.
Yeah.
And then you went on you talked about how you take yourself out for a date.
Yeah, that's really important for me because it's a way for me to reconnect with myself. So like once a month or once a week or whenever I can, I like to go somewhere that you would normally only go with friends, you know, that it's more socially acceptable to go with friends, like at a party or at a restaurant or somewhere where you need the company, but you don't actually need the company. You have free will, you know, you can do anything you want. Like, who's gonna stop you? So yeah, I just take myself on dates, which allows me to just reconnect with myself and then ask myself questions that I would ask others, like, what is my favorite color, what is this, what is that, and then I just start thinking about the answers and start knowing myself a little better.
Wow.
And it's just nice. Helpful.
So you're actually going inward. You're
Yeah.
going inward, even if you're in public and you're playing out this like interview to re-establish who you are to yourself.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've never heard that.
It helps me. I don't know.
That's really decent. I remember a time I went out for dinner in Little India by myself, and I sat down, and this very lovely young Indian man came, and he said, "May I join you?" Oh. And we had the best time.
Yeah.
And then his friends came, and they had just moved from India, and we had the best time. And I said to him at the end of our lovely dinner, I said, "Just so you know, I don't know if anybody in Toronto would do that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would do it." And it felt so good, and I was so happy I went by myself.
Yeah.
Because I went and learned so much about the prophets that we both had studied, etc. It was really, really refreshing. So cool. And anything else?
Depression is so physical that it feels paralyzing. It feels like you can't move physically. So that's why it's so hard. At least for me, depression feels really, really physical. So what I learned the other day that I've been doing that has really helped me, it's like, because when you move, it feels like you have to start doing so much. So you just enter a state of paralysis where you're just like, if I don't move, like, time won't go by, you know?
Right.
Like, I don't need to do anything if I don't move right now, which is your brain telling you, please take a break, right?
Right,
but
right.
You're just like, if I don't move, I don't have to do anything, and you're just like there, and your brain is shouting at you, go do something, you're wasting your time. So what I found, and then you don't want to, like, even go to the washroom or just get some water, because it feels like if you get up and get some water, then you could totally do all the other things
and
that
you don't want to.
And
you don't want to participate in the world. You've got to just, there's nothing that can move.
Yeah, exactly. So you just got to take a break, but you can't take a break because your brain is shouting at you. And then that's why people with depression sometimes don't even brush their teeth. Yes. Or don't take a shower, because it feels like, well, if you can't take a shower, then you can definitely do all the homework that you've been delaying. Yes. Like, you know? Yes. So what I found is that your brain is shouting at you, and your body is like, please, I don't want to move. So you just gotta yeet yourself, like, you gotta take all the force you have, and don't think about the task you're about to do, but just think about the movement you're about to do. Like,
so right that moment,
instead of going like, okay, I need to get up to take a shower, you just go on your bed, and then you move a little bit, and then you're like, okay, I just need to like roll myself off the bed. So you're like, yes. Poof. And it takes a lot of force, because you're trying not to think about it, and then suddenly you're on the floor, and then you're like, okay, I might as well get up and take a shower. And then you get up and take a shower.
That's really strong, like, to really start to get
that's what I really, really, really helped me, because depression is really mental, so sometimes you just gotta gaslight yourself.
You're such a joyous person as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard when you're who you are, like joyous and outward and interested in people, and you're a filmmaker. There's so much that you're going to do in this world. Yeah. Do you feel some need for validation about the way that your mind can feel? Because let's say you said to somebody, I just can't come today, I'm really depressed. And they might be like, you depressed? Like, they might not believe it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's relevant and it's helpful to identify that this happens? Depression or anxiety takes over. So just so that you can kind of have somebody on your team and let them know, you know what, I'm having a really, really depressed day. And then that person can certainly validate and say, oh, okay, what do you need? Rather than you always having to crowbar yourself out of bed and continue going. Just somebody that knows the backstory, so that you never need to explain yourself, and like really have them on your team so they comprehend what you experience. Because if somebody doesn't comprehend it, they're going to just think you're lazy, or you're right. And that, I think, is the hardest thing about when your emotions take over, is people just think you're just not reliable, or you can't be accountable and grow up and become more responsible. But it's not about it's that you can't respond, like you can't. And how can somebody know that? So it's like you have somebody that understands that, have somebody on your team that you can call and say, it's happening, and like really will yourself to call, because that means they're going to come out of it, and your body's not going to want to come out of it, your mind doesn't want to come out of it. Oh. Have you experienced that?
Oh, so much. And especially today, because depression has become a hot topic, right? Like a very buzzword right now, like yes. Everyone's depressed and everyone yes. And I think I didn't realize depression wasn't a normal thing, because I thought, oh well, everyone's depressed, because the word is so used. But then you have to realize, well, everyone feels sad and everyone is depressed sometimes, but it's not, I don't feel like everyone, you know, it's different.
Yes.
Like it goes
Yes.
to an extent that it's different from what people experience. And I think that's the hard thing to explain to some people, because when you say depressed, perhaps we should come up with a new word for it, but when you say depressed or I have depression, like people automatically think that they can relate to your experience because they feel, well, I've been sad and I've been feeling like I don't want to do things, so I'm certainly depressed. So I get what you're saying.
It's like, yeah, because they're not actually hearing you.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, but yeah, you just gotta explain, because it doesn't come from a place of hatred or they are not trying to understand you. It just comes from a place of ignorance, that they can't relate to your situation because they've never been through it. Okay, yeah, I understand you, I feel you, that sometimes we are depressed and it's part of the human nature, but here's what happens to me, like here's what have happened to me, like here's my situation so you can understand me better.
Got it.
And that normally works out because the person goes back and goes like, oh, okay, so yeah, I can't relate at all, and you're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's really helpful. And one thing I've noticed with mine's anxiety, and they both show up the same in the brain, anxiety and depression, is when I start to feel anxious, to kind of bring somebody on board, like to help them understand, you know, I get really anxious sometimes. If I start to feel really tight in my throat when I go to tell them, I know this is not the person to tell. Like I've learned to trust that when I feel an apprehension, don't do it. Don't do it. This person doesn't recognize or have the ability, as you say, it's an ignorance. They don't really understand that you're not making up a reason for how you're feeling or trying to get out of something. It's real, and it's completely taken over, and your whole physiology is that now, and you're doing everything you can. In fact, it's using so much of your energy, your life force, to stay true to what you're going to do. And then if you tell somebody and they kind of like go, well, come on, it's not that bad, you know. And when I see that in our culture, which is pretty predominant, where people are not validated, especially children, you know, we don't attend to their needs because we just want them to get their boots on, you know. And I remember a moment where my grandson was 6 and we needed to go shopping, you know, food shopping. He doesn't want to go because my daughter, she takes forever to food shop. So I thought, I'll go with you and I'll play with him in the cart, right? And he started crying because he was having such a good time at home. He just wanted to play. And Sarah, I never forgot this. My daughter, his mom, sat down on her knees and she went eye to eye and she said, Onyx, we need to go to the food store because we need to get food. And he goes, but I really just want to stay home and play. You know, like it was like double pump. He was really upset, double pump crying. And she said, I know you want to play. And he's, why can't I stay home with Grandma, me, and play? And she said, because she is the car and we need to get in the car. So then he kind of starts to understand what's happening. And then he was able to calm, and he was like, but as soon as you get home, we get to start playing again. So she's like, you know, and she spent a long time. And so she's down, she makes this time, she explains it. She hugs him, and then he's fine. And it's over, and we get in the car. Because it's been validated, what he feels is important. She listened to him. She said, okay, I get it, and we can do it when we get back. And when we got in the car, I turned to my daughter and I said, Sarah, that was televisable. Like, that's exactly how we address hard emotions, regardless of whether we're that short or whether we're, you know, I have many clients in their 60s that have severe anxiety, and the statistics are not accurate. There's so much anxiety in our culture. It's predominant. It's actually become the norm. And we live in such an anxious culture. But to see a child validated, and then they can come on board and they can get in the car seat and know that when they get home, indeed, they can continue because you've communicated. And we don't really know how to communicate with people. Yeah. We don't know how to say, you know, I'm really, really depressed today, without them saying, oh, that's terrible. And it's like, you know what? It's not. It's actually really common. Yeah. I experience it a lot. And when you make it terrible, then it feels like I got to get out of it. And I'm telling you so that I can share with you, like if I said to you, I have diabetes 2 and I need my insulin, diabetes 1, or I'm diabetic, they'd be like, oh, well, let me get you some orange juice. But if we say we're depressed, it's like, oh, And the sympathy makes it feel like it's so wrong, or
Yeah.
we're mutated by it and we've got to get out of it. And it's like, you know what? It's just really hard. It's just really hard. So I'm telling you because I'm with you, and I want you to know that I can barely participate. I'm still gonna go, but I'm just gonna be observing. I'm in an emotional wheelchair and I'm happy to be here, but I just don't feel like rolling in and engaging. So I'm just gonna stay back and delight in watching because it really helps.
Yeah.
Like to have that permission.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have a lot of permission in our culture. I feel like we're trying so hard to regulate and get out of an emotion or identify as labeling ourselves as, depressed, and so there's nothing we can do. And it's like, there's so much we can do, and on a good day, and maybe not today. So today we might just be like experts at depression. And that's our day. We have a really sad day. And no one has any care for sad in our culture.
Yeah.
There's no homage paid to it. There's no, to be sad is to be tender. Something's changed and you can't even explain what it is, but something's changed and you're grieving. There's something that can't quite go in to the day or with people, and it's on standby and it doesn't know how to engage. And can that be okay?
Yeah.
Can we just be there and again be back and just kind of watch the world, and we're just really not able to be a part of it right now, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And be in our feelings, right?
Be in our feelings.
Our culture has such an urgency, so we always have to put our feelings aside and just do what we have to do. We can do what we have to do while feeling bad, just like, but you have to be okay all the time. You have to be to not make people uncomfortable. You have to be okay. You can't be sad. You can't be in your feelings, because you have to present as no, I'm happy, I'm okay, don't worry about me, don't put your worry on me, because it's just gonna make an awkward situation, or you're gonna be perceived as someone that is sad or that people don't want to hang around with,
Yes.
And I totally understand that, but that culture, that mindset that we put on all of us just makes us never feel any feelings. Because we get so good at it.
Right there.
We just get so good at it, right?
We do.
We get so good at just snapping out of it. No, I'm not sad. I'm happy right now,
Yes.
And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be anxious. Just,
Yeah. Can you imagine a world where you show up and you say, I'm really, really sad, and someone says, oh, wow, that's a lot, that's hard. And they're just right there with you.
Yeah.
And they might say, did something happen, or is it just is it an accumulation, like a stockpile of a whole bunch of things that have occurred at once, or do you want to tell me, but how can I help? Do you want me to order for you? Do you want me to go get the tickets? Do you want to just stand here and breathe without them going, oh my God, I'm so sorry?
Yeah.
Because sympathy actually causes you to feel like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's already enough of a big deal what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And you don't want sympathy. You want someone that just goes, okay.
And the only help.
That's right. And the only person that can do that and be empathetic is someone that's very comfortable with their hard feelings.
Yeah.
They need to know. They know they can't know what you're going through because that's not very validating. But they comprehend hard.
Yeah.
They get it. They're like, okay, let me go get the tickets.
Yeah.
You just hang out.
Yeah.
Take over.
Or,
they take over.
Yeah. They babysit you for a little bit.
That's right. I think we need a professional babysitter at those times.
Yes.
Somebody that just, and it's not even skip the dishes and get somebody to bring a meal. It's more like, I don't know how to do life right now. Yeah. And if I don't know how to do life, that's important, what I'm feeling. And we need to live in a culture that pays respect to grief. That really says, because there's so many ways to grieve about life today, the speed, the requirements, that you can't say anything unless it's politically correct and gender-based and binary, and there's all this pressure, and it's a minefield. You could say the wrong thing and it goes on the internet, and now that affects your employment in 10 years. It's really radical now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that people are walking around not making eye contact in cities and things, there's a caution, something that doesn't know how to be alive, upright, and meet the world. And it's risk managing a lot. And we don't actually get to be creative or intimate or connect, because intimate doesn't have to be physical. Mm-hmm. We can realize wow, it's really hard to live in the world today. And knowing that, then you decide, how am I going to live in the world this way? How am I going to be a secret agent with my light? How am I going to be alive in the world when the world is not alive? I'm dead, that's right. And people are numb and they're automatons and they're just, checking the to-do list. And meanwhile, do we have any touch, physical touch? Do we have any looking into each other's eyes? Do we gaze into each other's eyes? Like when you say something profound and I just want to stay in it for a second or more? Do we have beauty? Do we have connection to nature? Do we recognize that at this time of year it's harder to feel alive because it's getting cold? There isn't really a way that we are tender with ourselves and allow and foster what we're feeling because we think it's going to take over. It's not going to take over. It's temporary. If you feel really, really sad and it lasts all day, the next day you feel incredible because you were real and you processed, however that works.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I've seen you do that too. I've seen you like one day, like can't even show up. And then another day back because you honored the requirement of the process of depression. It was needed. Because I love what you're saying. We don't need to appear anything as any way. And our culture does not bestow that upon us. It doesn't show that to us. It doesn't model it. There isn't a way that we're allowed to just be what we're feeling. And that is causing such a scarcity of feeling at home in ourselves, feeling free, feeling that whatever I feel is informing me of how I'm experiencing the world. I'm going to honor that. And even if I always show up a certain way, today this is me.
Yeah.
And I get to have all of that large bandwidth of different feelings because there is a large bandwidth of different feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's so much happening.
Yes.
And we don't get any connection anymore. We don't get community anymore because there's just so much happening and we're meant to take it all in. We're meant to just accept that things are the way they are and nothing can change because it really, like, climate change, for an example, it got to a point that even if everyone in planet Earth, like individuals, went to themselves and started recycling, stopped using a car, like did all the sustainable things, we still couldn't revert climate change at this point. So it's up only to the large corporations.
Yes.
And that is so scary.
Yes.
So people don't want to think about it. People don't want to because it's out of their control. And so much of this world is out of their control, out of our control. It's our fate in their hands, and people who don't care about us as individuals, who see people as numbers. So it is really scary, and people are just out of it. They don't want to connect because if you connect, you start to think about it, you start to reflect on it, and you start to think, whoa, my fate is so out of my hands. Like the fate of the world is so out of my hands.
Yes.
And it's being controlled by little aliens that don't care about the world.
Yes.
That only care about money, which is such a short-term thing.
Yes.
We have lost so much of our humanity, and it's so concerning, and it's so... Yeah.
It is.
And we can never acknowledge it,
Yes.
Because if you do, then you're like, oh yeah, but we don't want to think about that because... That's right.
I wanted to say what you just said is, to me it feels like the whole reason that there is a helplessness. I mean, I'm stating the obvious. It's just that if we really don't have the individual, unique, autonomous power to change what happens to the climate, how much does that affect how we feel about living? Like in making and choosing and discerning and saying, I choose this. Because does it feel like it's not going to make a difference? And if that's the feeling, the helplessness means that it's in the whole field of existence. It's the way people are operating as a whole, as a culture. And that I feel like is our greatest task as an evolving human right now, is to recognize, yes, we're screwed, and here's what I'm choosing.
Yeah, here's my principles.
That's right, here's my principles.
Values.
Not morals. I do yoga and I meditate, and it helps me a lot. And like, I don't see you there. I see you practicing something that you're identified as. Give me you. Like, how do you value your life each day? How do you make choices? So yeah, so I feel like there's a helplessness in our culture, and that there's a lot of blame on so-called young people in this generation that they aren't working hard enough to participate in what it requires to buy a house or to get a job. And it's like, well, they don't want to end up like us people, us older people that are just on the hamster wheel and going and going. They're like, no, I'm not doing that. And it's like, no, don't do it. I feel like that's what affects that is what has affected the scarcity mentality we abide by. So I'm really glad you mentioned that, because anxiety is sincerely the field we're in. We're in an anxious culture.
Yeah.
And
there's so much divide.
There's so much divide. There's so much disconnection.
So many wrong opinions, right opinions. Like, you don't know what people believe, and people are so unwilling to listen. Like, people think that debating is about winning when it's really a collaboration. You should try, even if you have opposite views, you should try to understand each other. That's what a debate is about.
Yes.
You know, that's what a conversation is about. But no, everyone's just hard on their opinions because they think, no, this is right and this is wrong and this goes against my morals and this goes against this and this goes against that.
Yes.
And no one is willing to, okay, wait, let me understand you, let me hear you out. You know. And even if you don't agree, at the end of it, you can just like, okay, yeah, I don't agree with you, but I'm glad I listened. I'm glad I took your information, you know? That's
beautiful, that deep listening, that you totally hear somebody. Nothing, and you can resonate maybe with what they know. Alan Alda used to say that, he's an actor that was around a lot and still is. He said that when you listen to somebody, like you really listen, you might forget what you know, because of what they know kind of infiltrates and evaporates what you knew before they told what they know. You could be changed, and you could be upgraded to a new you that now knows something that now makes sense to you. And that's what I really love about listening to somebody. It might grate against what you know, and that's irrelevant. You just totally listen. And then something that they say might change you a year from now or a day from now, because you see how it's true in the world. Like you've had this new knowledge that you would not have comprehended because of how you see the world, and now you're being changed because of them. And I think that's what's really beautiful about listening to everybody, and there isn't anything that's rejecting what they're saying or perceiving it. You don't get it, you don't know why they do that, and it's irrelevant, because how are you supposed to play that role of knowing and understanding for them anyways? I mean, it's beautiful for them to be totally different from you. And I remember when I did this with my daughter when she was 14 years old, and she was separating from me, you know, as is required for development. And I remember she said, well, I don't like that you did this. I don't like that you do this. I don't like that you live this way. And she went on, and I listened, and I just kept listening and listening and listening. And then she finished. And I said, thank you for telling me. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, because you told me how you want to live. You told me how you see the world. You told me by telling me what you don't like about what my choices were. So now I get to see what you don't like. And what you don't like about me, what you don't like about my choices, helps you get in touch with yours. You don't need to be congruent with mine at all. And she was like, cool. So she had the permission to keep finding out how she wanted to make the choices. And I said, yeah, and I can't wait to see what you choose. So we don't have those options, right? We have a parent that says, you gotta get your homework done and please clean your room, and because we're always in this role. But if we actually had room when we were a teenager, we wouldn't be in the situations that we are now as an adult, because we would have been exercising our free choice. And of course, never being unkind or disrespectful. That was a given. We didn't do that to each other. And I didn't have power over Sarah. I got to birth her and be an ambassador to her soul's development. And all it is like water deep, stove hot. That's it. That's all I need to tell you, right? The rest you're going to figure out, and I'm just going to keep you from falling off the ledges. But you've got to ask usually. So I don't think we've ever been given the space or the room to implore and develop who we are, because we were taught that it's a scary world and it's unsafe, and don't do that and don't wear that because that could suggest something. We've been taught all this fear mongering, so it's very rare that we're doing something because we know to do it. And that's what's caused so much problem for us, is we don't know how to trust ourselves because no one trusted us to trust ourselves, to make our choices. And maybe we'll fail, but it's not about winning, or it's not about I made it, or it's that this is what I developed by doing this.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You become more of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are so afraid of change right now, right? I think that's a big part of it as well, because people are lost and they don't want to admit that they're lost, because everyone is a little bit lost. Everyone is changing all the time, but we just don't want to admit it because we want to seem like we have it together, like we truly we figured it out. We're the one that figured it out. And no, nobody did. Like, we're all just living. Can we acknowledge that we're all just living here in this scary world that everyone is fearing and everyone is disconnected? But hey, we're here together, you know? The world is out of our control. It's up to the big guys. And oh well, okay, but we're here and we're living together, you know? Can we just be with each other in that pain and that grief, that the control is totally out of your hands, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, but I don't know.
I think you do know. And look at you, you've moved from Brazil when you were 16 years old, and now you're 17 years old to be a filmmaker because you knew you couldn't do it in the way you needed to in your country. And you came here, and that was an example, right? You know, I needed to do this. I need to do this. And you were in touch with that inner knowing that prompted you to change countries and to move to a big city that where you knew nobody, and you did it. Yeah. This is powerful and beautiful.
Thank you.
You're
Well, my
welcome.
parents were like really, really helpful. They're amazing people. So they always support me so much, and and that helped me out a lot, which I get that most people can't do because
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad you came.
Thank you.
You're welcome.